Hey, it's John. I wanted to tell you about an app that I found out about recently. It was shared with me by Carmen Bauer, and it's been kind of a game changer. So I want to show you this and walk you through it. Carmen Bauer is a fantastic artist working in colored pencil, watercolor, and other mediums as well. So I used to use Rapid Resizer, which I think is a great application as well. But this one is an iOS app. You can get it right on your iPad and start using it and just using your fingers. It's really impressive because it's very granular. You can do so many things with it, more than what I thought initially when I first started looking at it. So let's dive in here. The first thing to know is that you can hit this plus sign, and when it comes up initially, this is an image that I created from recently. This is my photograph. You can start out by just hitting this plus button, and then it'll go into your photos. You can select some photo in here and start with that. Let's say I wanted to start with that one right there. So let's say I'm using that one. I can go back here to this one that I had and hit delete after I tap it. All right, so let's say that I've got Oakland in here. So if I just tap it with one finger, it'll tell me dimensions and it gives me a menu up here. Before we do that, I want to go back over here to the gear. This is what you'll probably want to explore when you first come in here. And I've got US letter, I've got paper sizes. I'm going to go ahead and use the Apple Pencil here. I'm going to be using US letter, 8.5 by 11 inches, because that's the largest size that my printer will print. But it has US legal. It's got 11 by 14, 12 by 12. Has all the A sizes as well if you want something that's more specific and a little more granular there. And then all these other sizes as well. So you can select whichever one you want. Go back to options, and I can hit clear the page. It'll take out whatever is there right now. Go to orientation. I can select, I've got it on automatic, but I could select portrait or landscape if I want to lock it into those modes instead. Measured in inches, you could change that to centimeter if you wanted to. And let's see, we'll go over here to the undo button. That's the next button in this menu, and it just brings back, does the last action that I did, which was deleting this image, and it brought it back. So then I can just delete it again. Or I can hit the redo button right there. Okay, so I'm on a US letter orientation or aspect ratio, which is at 8.5 by 11. And it's in portrait mode right now. If I moved in this direction, I believe that would just put it into landscape mode. And then if I tapped one time with my finger, I could rotate this to make it fit this orientation. And then whenever I print it, and I'll show you that in a second, then I could specify to print this in landscape if that's the orientation that I'm using as I'm setting up this canvas. But if you noticed here, I can resize this by just zooming in or out, pinch to zoom in or out with my fingers. And that works quite well. I can also just grab this handle at the corner, and it'll do the same thing, except it anchors it in the opposite corner of wherever I started. So if I'm dragging over here, it's anchoring it over there. If I come up here to this corner and orient it way up there in that top left corner, and then I drag with this corner, it will orient everything anchored up there in that top left corner. The little carrots on the broad sides here give me a crop option right there. Little crop option. So that's kind of how you move things around. You see where it's cropping it, where everything's kind of grayed out a little bit. If I tap it one more time, you'll see there's a little indication right there of where US letter sheet will crop it right there as well. But the image itself is cropped because of the way I was handling that little handle on the edge, that carrot handle on the edge. Now I can always get that back. I can come in here and resize this, go all the way to the edge again. So if I want to resize the sheet that I'm on, I'll grab the sheet with two fingers. If I want to resize the image, then I'll tap on it, and I can crop with those little carrot handlers. Or again, I can just zoom in or out with my fingers. So let's go back and grab more of the photo here. So I'm going to come up here, reorient this just a little bit. And I notice I had more up here at the top of the photo. There we go. Okay. So the photo itself, when I tap on it, gives me the dimensions there, tells me that it's 5.85 inches. So that's the width by 7.20 inches in height. And if I don't like that, then, I can go ahead and crop. And when I tap the image, it gives me that information. It tells me that the pixels per inch is 230 right there. And if I, zoom in or out, of course, all those dimensions change. And the 130 PPI, that changes from what it was earlier because I'm zooming in. So I've got less pixelation because I've zoomed in on it. So it's going to be less clear, right, when I'm magnifying that. All right, so let's say that I would really like for this image to be a 9 by 12. All right, so this longest side, the vertical, will be 12 inches. So I can just go up here to 12 inches. There we go. I want the height to be 12 inches. So I want to just keep that locked in. And then over here, I can start cropping it on this side if the orientation looks better to me that way. And that's saying, I want to cut off a little bit of the ear over here. Let's say that's my choice that I want to do that. So I can go there. And now I've got a 9 by 12. Now, I want to print this on that paper. So I can go over here to the top corner. I'm just tapping and holding it down with one finger because I'm going to keep it in that same orientation right there. And then I anchor it over here at the top, and I've got my 90 degrees over here for the top and side of the portrait. And you can see these boundary marks right here to let me know what it's going to cut off. And we do the same thing down here. Do it all the way over here in the corner. Okay. Now we'll go over to print. That's the icon on the far bottom right. Tap the print icon and my printer comes up automatically. I have a mode where I can decide whether I want to print it in color or for photo quality or general color or grayscale photo or grayscale general. And I'm just going to probably print it, in color. So I can go back. I can also, and then just hit print. I can also export this as a PDF, portable document format, or a JPEG image, or save for later, and it will still be available here within this application. So let's say that I would like for this to be just a little bit bigger. Let's say I want it 11 by 14. Okay. So all I've got to do is stretch that out, get kind of close to that orientation, right? Maybe right about there. And then same thing, I can decide how I want to crop this. And I've just got all this control over this, endless amounts of control. And I find it a little bit easier sometimes if you just use your pencil, your Apple Pencil. I guess I've gone as far as I can go up there. And then let's see, 11 inches right there. And about 10. Getting really close. And I'm dragging the wrong one. Oops. Go to 14. And let's go in on this side. There we go, 11 inches. And then I just leave it like that. And I don't mess around then with the cropping of it by, using those carrots on the broad sides. Photo now is 11 by 14. And come out here into the area surrounding the canvas in this dark area. And I'm just resizing how I'm looking at it here. But it's 11 by 14. Now, what I can do is, if I want to print this, and you can do this with a line drawing, right? That's where maybe a better use case would be, right? But now I can print this, anchoring again over here on the top left corner, and print it right there. Do the same thing over here, bottom right corner. And I'm just using one finger to drag it around because I don't want to change that dimension now, the 11 by 14. Okay, here's where the rubber really meets the road. Let's say I've got this image right here that I've imported in. This is square. So it was a 14 by 14 inch image that I was using in a recent No Stroke Left Behind workshop. And I want to print this out 14 by 14. So I'm going to increase this size, get it 14 by 14 right there. Now that I'm using 2 fingers and I got it to that exact size, and I don't want it to change now. Now I'm going to use my 1 finger just to drag it around. It won't change the size. Fit it up into this corner, and I can zoom in here and make sure I'm right up there in the very corner. If I want to do that and click outside, or touch outside rather, with 2 fingers in this bounding box area, so that I can move this around a little bit. And now I'm showing exactly where this would print. This is my line drawing, so I'm going to use this to start preparing my line drawing for my project surface. And I want to show you exactly how to do that. Okay, now let's say that I look at this and I decide, well, I really don't want to, cut off part of the nose and part of the lips and things like that. So is it really going to matter? All this negative space out here, is that going to matter to me? Probably not. So I can go here, print somewhere like that. I can include everything right in here. But if you look closely, I've got this outline here that gives me where the 8.5 by 11 page is and how it will cut that off. Well, this doesn't give me any kind of 90-degree angles to go off of. So the best thing to do is to go either up all the way or down all the way. That way I know how to align my page when I print out several of these and I cut them with scissors, and I get all these pieces of paper and I tape them together and get it ready for transferring onto my surface. Okay, so the questions I have to ask myself is, what's going to be the trickiest part of this composition? It's going to be the face, right? Going to be all these elements right in here, the face, the neck, maybe some elements around the head. So I'm going to go up to the top, print right in there, go directly down to the bottom, print right in here. If the shoulder is tough for you, go ahead and do that. Print wherever you need it to be and just fit it within these 90-degree angles at the edges of the areas that you want to incorporate into your project on your project surface. That way I can easily align these when I print, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 different pages out, and then I want to paste those together or tape those together. Okay. Now, let's say that, maybe you want to go with 14 by 11. That's actually what I did in this case. So I can come over here and make this 11 inches. Let's say I don't want to go all the way to the edge. I'll come maybe right over here. I think what I did was I went right about there. And I went encroached just a little bit on this side of the sleeve, something like that. That way we still have an understanding of what was happening with these sleeves on one side, and we can fill in the blanks on the other. But this still gives me enough information. Still render this with all the detail. I've just cropped it a little bit more, but it's still zoomed in enough rather than making it real small. So we've got an 11 by 14. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and print some of these. And the next thing I want to do then is I'll grab these and show you how to tape those together so that you can start transferring this to your project surface. So I'll hit print right here. All right, so I got all those back. I'll lay this aside for a moment. I've got all of these printed pages back now. So I've got this one, where I went all the way down to the bottom. I've got this page where I went all the way over to that left-hand side. Got this one where I went all the way up to the top, but notice I'm not cutting off anything important in these small features. And then I've got this one where I'm seeing this side of the head. So you print it wherever you need help in being able to make this a complete image that helps you to not cut off important areas. I'd rather cut off part of the hair than I would right in the middle of the eye, for example. Okay, next thing I'll do is I'll grab my scissors. Okay, so now I need to make some decisions about this. So I've got my scissors here, and I need to decide, all right, what's important right here? Do I really need this little strip right here? This is a complete head right here. So I'm going to look over here on this side. Let me get inside the frame here. I'm going to look over here on this side instead. I'm only missing a little tiny bit over there. This much over here. Is that all that important? Probably not. And it might be to you, and that's fine. If it is, then, use whatever you have available. Maybe you'll go with this one and you'll have more information, right? But in this case, I can probably just use this one right here, this printout, and grab that information and work with what I've got there. Put all of that together and come up with a pretty good roadmap to work from. Okay. So I'll kind of line that up a little bit, and I can get my light pad out and see through that so that I can see exactly what I need to. The first thing I want to do here is probably just trim off a little bit right in here. Now, if I'm thinking about it more, I probably will tell the printer to print all the way to the edge if your printer supports that, your settings, and that eliminates this little annoyance. So the next thing we can do is pick this up here, get it kind of lined up there. So I've got some Scotch tape. I'll just grab a little tiny bit here. Make sure it's not super sticky. Just stick it on my hand a couple times. And I'll just put a piece of that right in there. Now, this is so much better. I'll put a piece right over here as well. We can incorporate this one now. Stick it back here and get that sleeve where it needs to be. And then we've got this part of the hair as well. So, and I cut off part of the sleeve over here, leaving this part of the sleeve instead. So gives me a better composition. All right, so let's grab the light pad. Okay, I've got the light pad, and I'll just stick my line drawing right up on top here. Then I want to transfer to my project surface. And the next thing I want to do is go ahead and plug this in. So I've got it plugged in here, and I can turn it on. Got a dimmer switch on this one. And get that set where I need it. And I've got my line drawing sort of ready to go. It's in pretty good shape. Now I can kind of align this other page. A couple different ways of doing this, but what you could do is and we can see that we're off just slightly over here. All that matters is where I line up the collar, right? You can see by the edge of the face that I didn't get exactly correct, but it's not on the face. It's only down here on the collar of the shirt. So I'm not actually going to use this. I would take a little more time and just get it very, very accurate before I would use this for a real project. I'm just showing you how to do this. Okay, next thing I would do is I'd come in here. You can line up some of these lines, some of these features right here. Get this as accurate as possible. And then got a little piece of tape right here. You could cut this off if you needed. All you really need is that sleeve, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and do that just to show you exactly what I would do in this case. So get it right over there where I need it to be, and how I would measure this, or how I would determine what I need. I'm going to turn this down so you can probably see this better on video. Is if you look at this little spot right here where the hair is curved right there on my line drawing, I know that's probably tough to see, but I would line that up right in there. Get that lined up about right in there. Okay. And then I'm going to take my scissors. I would just cut that particular spot right there. I'll lift this part of the drawing up. Cut that. Cut it right back here. Okay. Now, I don't need this big piece right here that's going to be making it more difficult to see through everything. All I need is that. And if I can just tape that together. Here we go. Voila, that's it. Okay, so now I could tape this down, tape it over here on my light pad if I wanted to. Grab my project paper, put it on top, whatever size you're wanting to go with, say 11 by 14 or whatever it is. And then you could turn your light pad up full max like that. You're able to see through it now. I like to use the call erase pencils for this. This is a pink one right here. But I'm not going to use the pink eraser on there. If I make a mistake or I draw something I need to get rid of, I'm going to use my kneaded eraser or my sticky putty. All right, so I will tape this down. I'll get it flush with the edge of my line drawing. That way I can get this directly on my surface, exactly where I need it to be. Now, in this case, the more I look at this, the more I realize I would come in here and I would just cut off this part right here so that I don't have these double lines that I'm seeing through up there. Okay. But that's exactly how I lay this out. This is exactly the process that I go through and that I teach in every No Stroke Left Behind workshop. We're walking through this together and doing it together. Okay. And then we just start outlining this, and we use very light marks so that we are not making an accidental indentation in our paper surface. That's actually another entirely different video altogether, but I just wanted to connect the dots for you and let you see how we can utilize this Printicize app for the complete process and getting something functional to work from. Hope you enjoyed that.